Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and a good night. I am Patrick. This is Storytelling Imperfectly, and welcome to the channel. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. I am Patrick. I hope you like what you see. Today on Storytelling Imperfectly, guys, we got a really strange case. Now, this case has been updated since the story was initially put out. It started out as a missing persons case. However, we do know what happened. If you are a member of the channel, if you've been coming here, you've been subscribing, you've been watching, most of my videos are titled, What Happened to Insert Name Here. However, today is not what happened to said person, it's why it happened. What happened inside the what happened, if you will. Sit back and relax, it's story time, guys, and we're going to try to figure out why what happened to Jacob Gray happened. Back in 2017, guys, there was a guy named Jacob Gray. He was a young man around the age of 22 years old. Now, Jacob was an athletic guy. He was from Santa Cruz, California. He was a surfer. That's right on the Monterey Bay in California. If you don't know where it's at, check it out. It's a beautiful place. It's actually known for its surfing. And Jacob Gray was an avid surfer. He enjoyed it. Now, if you don't know anything about the Pacific Ocean, it's around 50-degree water. It's pretty chilly, if you will. And Jacob didn't mind that. In fact, he loved surfing. He loved getting out and camping. He was an outdoorsman. Anything to do with nature, be it surfing or hiking or camping, Jacob was a part of it. And that was his whole life. He was a very well-together guy. No issues of mental health, no problems with the law. In fact, Jacob wanted to be a paramedic and a fireman, one or the other. He wanted to help people. So that speaks volumes about this guy. Now, back in April of 2017, Jacob left California, went up to his grandmother's house in Port Angeles. Now, if you know that name, it's probably from the Twilight series. That's where the Quileute Indian Reservation, Native American Reservation is. Don't look for werewolves, guys. It's probably not going to happen. However, who knows? Maybe werewolves had something to do with Jacob's case, because it is a super weird one. Now, Jacob went to his grandmother's house because he obviously was visiting. Now, his mother and father, whose names were Randy and Laura Gray, were divorced. And so Laura, his mother, also lived in Washington State, not too far from Port Angeles in a place called Port Townsend. And his father was down in California. Now, Jacob lived with his father. However, he took regular vacations and trips up to see his family that he had in Washington State. And on this particular occasion, while he was visiting his grandmother in Port Angeles, he decided to go out hiking and camping. Now, he had a bike that he regularly, like I said, he was an outdoorsman. He was a fit guy. Jacob was not a guy that was on drugs and drinks and sits around and does nothing. He was a very health-conscious person, all right? He ate well, he exercised, and of course, if you've ever been surfing or hiking, you know, if you're out of shape, it's going to show real fast. And this wasn't the case with Jacob. So he biked almost everywhere he went when he was in Washington State. And why not? It's beautiful country there. And this particular occasion, he was biking to the Olympic National Park. Now, it is a beautiful park. However, it is also a very rugged park. And it's very visited, you know, because it is beautiful and it is an attraction. A lot of people go there. About 3 million people a year actually visit Olympic National Park in Washington State every year. So, Jacob put his bike, got his bike out. He actually had a wagon that he pulled behind his bike. He packed it full of many things. His camping gear. There's a long list of things that he actually packed, guys. Proper clothing, multiple changes of clothing. He had plenty of food. He had plenty of water. He had rain gear. He had cold weather gear. He actually took a bow and arrow with him. Now, I'm not sure why, because there is no hunting permitted without special authorization within any national park system. And I'm not sure about the regulations in the Olympic National Park, but I would say hunting is probably prohibited there as well. Did he take the bow and arrow because protection? I don't know. I don't know why he did it, but it was in his wagon. On the morning of April 5th of 2017, Jacob Gray said goodbye to his grandmother. He informed his mother and grandmother that he was going to go camp and hike for a few days in the Olympic National Park, and he set off down the road. In fact, he got off the highway and was going down the Sol Duc River Road. Now, the Sol Duc River is a very beautiful river in the Olympic National Park, but the most known thing about it is that it leads to hot springs, and that's generally the draw to a lot of people who come to that area, is that they're heading to the hot springs. It's a fairly busy road, and in fact, we know that Jacob made it down this road not only because this is where his bike was found, but because there were actually people that remembered seeing him that day when they were questioned by authorities. However, the very next day, on the 6th of April, Jacob's bike and wagon was found on the side of the road by park rangers. After a hasty search, they didn't find the person belonging to this bike and to this wagon. However, most of his gear was still inside the wagon. Quite a few things were missing though, considering what Jacob took with him. Amongst was his backpack and things like that. But the weird thing is that still inside the wagon was his ID, his wallet, a list of telephone numbers. Weird, right? And it was all wrapped up in a plastic bag, so that way it wouldn't get wet. It's almost like he left it there for a reason. I don't know. We can only speculate. Because after 2 days of a hasty search, now when I say hasty search, guys, when I mean hasty search by park rangers, a hasty search by park rangers is them basically just walking around an area, maybe 50, 60 feet away from something they found and going, yep, there's nothing here, and they move on, right? But because they found his wallet and a list of telephone numbers, they inquired and they made calls and they reported to the family members that they had found these items, that they had found this bike and they had found this wagon. In the back of the wagon were his bow. There was actually 4 arrows stuck in the ground, and the rest of the arrows were sticking out the back of the wagon. Not like they were shot at the wagon, they were just in the wagon sticking out the back. I'll put a picture up. Very, very odd, guys. This is very strange. Why are there 4 arrows sticking down the ground? I don't know. Why did he do this? We don't know. But when they called his family and said, hey, we found all this stuff, his family was immediately alarmed. They were like, yeah, Jacob would not leave his stuff on the side of a highway like this, on the side of a road, and then just disappear like this. So the search really began in earnest right around the 8th of April. However, this case speaks volumes yet again. In a lot of my videos, guys, we talk about the National Park Service and how they handle missing person cases. And this definitely speaks volumes about their ineffectual search methods and almost their lackadaisical and asinine behavior towards the victims of people that go, the family members of the victims that go missing in National Park Service, also in their ability to search for people in National Park Services. It's been this way for a very long time, and as I've covered in my Dennis Martin video, as well as numerous other videos about missing person cases, it is clear that you don't want to go missing in the National Park, and Jacob's case is no exception. What they did at this point in time was say that they didn't really have the manpower to search for Jacob. They put a couple of guys on it and said, there you go. And the guys had no resources. They didn't have K9 units. The Park Service didn't put helicopters up in the air. Basically, it was a couple of dudes on foot walking through the woods for maybe a mile, and then when they got to the Sol Duc River, which wasn't very far away from where his bike was parked, the Sol Duc was high. It had been raining a lot, and so they looked at it and said, yeah, nobody could possibly, get across this. Although there are log jams, when logs are floating, they fall into the river and they float downriver and they all kind of bunch up and create a natural crossing, also a natural dam for the river. And there were several of those around. So saying that somebody couldn't cross this river across one of those log jams is completely not true. I mean, obviously somebody could have walked across it. But why they wouldn't use dogs or anything like that? Now, at this point in time, Jacob left his home on April the 5th. On April the 9th, all right, Jacob's mother, Laura, called his father, Randy, down in California and said, hey, Jacob's missing. We can't find him. He went into the Olympic National Park, and we don't know where he's at. His father obviously was a little upset that his mother had waited, 5 days before notifying that his son had went missing, but instantly he was concerned to the max. And so he told his job, I'm gonna go look for my son. He left California, and by the 11th of April, he was in the Olympic National Park searching for his son. To his ultimate frustration, when he reached out to the National Park Service about trying to find his boy, he met red tape and was stonewalled. They said, we don't have the manpower to search for him. We're searching for another missing person right now. Also, there is a downed airplane, and we're putting search efforts into finding it. It sounded like just a mess. And his father, this wasn't okay with him. He was like, what's going on? Why don't you guys have more people? Well, it turns out that the Olympic National Park, because of funding, went from 36 park rangers to 12 for the entire park. Now, Olympic National Park is huge, guys. It's a massive national park. And to only have 12 rangers available is just preposterous. It's just nonsense. And so Randy Gray, Jacob's father, said, well, okay, and he just kind of bypassed them. He went to a local county search and rescue, Clallam County, I think was the name of it. Clallam, maybe? Clallam. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not from there, and I've never heard it spoke out loud, so I'm just kind of guessing from the reading of this story. I'll put up some news articles that during my research about this. But the Clallam, I don't know, the county that was responsible for the search, he reached out to them. Randy's father did. And when he did, he actually managed to get together 100 searchers. They then petitioned the national park to use drones and canines in the search for Jacob, and they were denied. Now, why the national park would deny the use of canines is beyond me. But even weirder to me is like, why would you not allow somebody to use drones to search for a missing person? I have no idea. There is no rational explanation for this. What, are they afraid the drones are going to hit birds? I mean, are they afraid the dogs are going to, startle a couple of deer? I don't know. I really don't know the answers behind this. If you know, leave it in the comment section below. Why would a national park not allow searchers to use every means at their disposal to find a missing person? I don't know. But they were denied. Now, this really upset Randy's father, to say the least. And who wouldn't be upset? I'm a father. It would have infuriated me. And Randy was a bit irate about it. He ended up writing a few people. He ended up going to the local news agencies and telling them how the National Park Service has no plans to help him search for his son. And that the people that they have put on it was like 2 guys searching through the woods going, hey, Jacob, you around here? Guess not. And moving on. When this news article hit stands and went on live on TV, the National Park Service actually did respond to it. And they were quoted, and I'll put that quote up as well, as saying that the National Park Service has, because they were questioned. I mean, the newspaper reached out to them and said, hey, what is your procedures for searching for missing people within Olympic National Park? And Olympic National Park representatives reached back out to the news agency and says, we do not have a guideline at all for searching for missing people. Also, something Randy did was reach out to a local Coast Guard unit and get permission from them to use one of their helicopters that have FLIR on it to look for Jacob. Now, guys, this happened in 2017, just a couple of years ago, right? This is new. The technology we have today to look for people in rural areas or heavily wooded or densely foliaged areas is pretty high tech these days. And guess what the National Park Service said about the Coast Guard flying helicopters into the national park system? That's right, you got it, a big fat no. Needless to say, due to pressure by the local community reaching out now, as well as Randy starting a petition on change.org to allow him to use canine units to search for his son within the Olympic National Park, the Park Service collapsed on itself and just kind of folded in like a flan in a cupboard and said, you know what, help yourself. You can bring dogs, but you still can't use a helicopter and you still can't use drones. Randy took what he could get, and so he started looking for his son. Now, remember, again, Jacob had gone missing, or at least left his grandmother's home on April the 5th. By this point in time, it was April the 14th. There was 100 people searching on the ground. They had 30 canine units looking for Jacob as well. They went up and down the river, the Solduke River, looking for any sign of Jacob. Only twice did the dog teams hit on anything, and these were cadaver dogs, and they actually hit on a log jam, which means that his body could have been under the water. So possibly Jacob had tried to cross the Solduke while it was swollen with rain and had fallen in. Highly possible. Maybe he had hit his head. I mean, a lot of people, even his father, said if Jacob had fallen in the water, he's used to swimming and surfing in the Pacific Ocean. He's not a novice surfer. I mean, he's not even an intermittent surfer. I mean, granted, he's not a pro either, but he's not new to this. And at 22 years old, this kid was fit. They really believed that if he had fallen into the water, that he would have been able to get to the other side. Which also brings up the point that while searching both sides of the river, a few searchers did find a spot where it looked like somebody might have climbed out on the other side. However, when they brought the dogs onto that side of the river and was looking, they didn't pick up Jacob's scent. As far as the cadaver dogs hitting on these log jams, they put divers in the water and they found no bodies. In fact, they searched 13 different log jams because the searcher speculated that maybe there was a corpse upriver that had brought remains down to these log jams. So they went 13 miles up and down the river looking for a corpse within these log jams. Nothing was found. Ultimately, on the 14th of April, the National Park Service pulled their searchers and said, we have to dedicate these resources to other, missing persons in that airplane. And then on the 16th of April, even the searchers that Randy had brought in basically stopped searching. Now, a pair of shorts was also found during this search that was a brand that Jacob was known to wear, but the weather was cold and Jacob wasn't wearing shorts when he left the house, left his grandmother's house. But there was this brand of shorts found that supposedly belonged to Jacob. But that was only the real sign, and that wasn't found until May. By July 17th, Randy had actually managed to get another 100 people to go up on the Solduke River in that area to look for his son. But again, ultimately, the search ended in vain. I mean, nothing was found, and it was just a dead end. It's like Jacob had just up and disappeared, out of nowhere. And so I can only imagine the heartache this father must have felt. And so the search was completely called off, and there ends Jacob's story for the moment. Disappeared, evaporated. On August the 10th of 2018, over a year later from when Jacob went missing, some research biologists in Washington State were studying a particular breed of marmot, which is like a ferret, weasel family, a marmot. And they were up high in elevation, around 5,300 feet, on a place called Ho Lake, which is H-O-H Lake, right? I think I'm saying it right. Ho Lake? I don't know. Nonetheless, while they were up there, they found human remains. They found clothing. They looks to be a campsite. All of this equipment, and they found skeletal remains. They informed law enforcement and the National Park Service. They then went and found more skeletal remains, more camping gear, all of these things. And guess what? It was Jacob Gray. Now here's the weird part, guys. He is now 5,300 feet in elevation from where he went missing. But not only that, he is 15 miles away from where his bike was found and 10 miles away from the Sol Duc River. How did he get there? Why was he there? And more importantly, it looked like a campsite. There was plenty of food. There was plenty of water. His camping gear was there. I mean, it was a campsite. There was a fire pit, for God's sakes. It looked like Jacob had been camping there, and it looked like he had actually been there for a little bit. It doesn't look like he just got there, set up camp, and fell over dead, which raises even more interesting questions, because it was skeletal remains. Now, they did send these off for analysis, and the only reason they knew it was Jacob was because of his dental records, right? So then they couldn't do an autopsy because there's not much left of him. His cause of death is still unknown. However, there was no trauma of any kind found to his skeletal remains. So he didn't have head injuries or a skull fracture, anything like that. And not only was there no damage or anything wrong with Jacob's remains when they were found, no broken bones, no trauma of any kind to his skeletal remains, the campsite, there was, like I said, plenty of food, water. He had attire appropriate for being out in the wilderness, and him being an avid outdoorsman, everything indicated that the person, Jacob Gray, and his remains had died for unknown reasons. So some of the park rangers had speculated that it was hypothermia that killed him, that he died from exposure of being up there. But why was he up there? It doesn't explain why Jacob left his bike 15 miles away and then climbed up to 5,300 feet of elevation, built a camp, and then just stayed there till he died, when he had plenty of food and plenty of water, when he had clothing appropriate attire for the season, as well as that they even found cigarette lighter in his pocket, so he had the ability to start fire. So why would he die of hypothermia if he could build fires? It doesn't make any sense. More importantly, why did he leave all his stuff back at the river? Why were there 4 arrows stuck in the ground and the rest of them in the back of his wagon that he had brought? None of this makes any sense. And to this day, his father, who, of course, when he was informed that they had found Jacob's remains, was ultimately crushed. So what happened? Why did Jacob do what he did? That's why I'm saying we know what happened to Jacob. We know the outcome of this case, but we don't know why it happened. And I would love to hear your thoughts on what you think might have drove Jacob to, go out 15 miles into the wilderness and just die. Do you think somebody killed him? Do you think that maybe he took his own life? Was this a moment where all of a sudden that the parents didn't know that he was mentally ill and that Jacob had finally reached the end of his rope and just kind of, I find it hard to believe that nobody in this kid's life would have noticed that he was depressed to the point of suicide if that was his plan. Somebody might have said, hey, Jacob's been acting a little weird lately, and there was no sign of that. I don't know, guys, but again, I'd love to hear what you have to say, so please leave me something in the comment section below. I always love hearing from you guys, but that's it for Patrick today, guys. I don't have anything else for you. Thank you so much for being here with me. If you like this video, by all means, smash in that like button. Turn it blue for me. It really helps me out. It lets me know you're enjoying the content, as well as it lets YouTube know you're enjoying the content, which helps the channel grow. So, that brings me to the next point. If you guys are not subscribed, which in my analytics is showing me that 72% of the people watching these videos are not subscribing to the channel. So let's change that. Turn that frown upside down, guys. Put a smile on your face. Hit the subscribe button. It'll make you feel good. It helps me out. Helping other people have been proven scientifically to increase your own happiness. So help me out by smashing in that red button, and while you're at it, hit the bell, get the notifications, guys, so you don't miss out the next time I upload. And that is it. Again, Patrick is out of here. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, night, evening, and morning, and I will see you guys in the next video.